Thank you. Good morning. Please sit down. Secretary Albert Del Rosario, His Excellency Canadian Ambassador Neil Reeder and Mrs. Reeder, Senator Tobias Enverga and Mrs. Enverga, Ambassador Leslie Gatan, Undersecretary Maria Teresa Martinez, Assistant Secretary Carlos Soreta, participants of the 2014 Winter Escapade, fellow workers, government, honored guests. Mga minamahal ko po kababayan, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. Does anybody mind if I speak in Tagalog? Okay, thank you. If you notice I had the teleprompter removed, that means I didn't like the speech that they prepared today. I think it failed to convey a lot of the sentiments I want to express. And unfortunately, now I have to do it extemporaneously, and I'm still composing portions of it. Anyway, let me start out with them. Marami hong problema ang bansa natin. No? Last year, talagang parang napakarami nung share naman natin sa problema. At paminsan-minsan, nagkakaroon tayo ng, alam niyo, Pilipino pag madali raw humumiti, parang naghahanap ng pagpapatawa. Di ba? Para kung ano man dinadaanan, medyo mapagaanan ang ating pinagdadaanan. So, alam naman ho nyo siguro, text capital raw ang Pilipinas. No? At last week, may natanggap akong text. Baka nabalitaan nyo, meron ho tayong kasalukuyang issue tungkol doon sa PDAFO, Priority Development Assistance Fund. Na kung saan di umano, meron mga ilang membro ng gobyerno ang inabuso itong bondong to at ibinulsa. Sa gitna po ng kontrobersyang to ay may isang aling ngalan, Miss Napoles. Okay. Ngayon, ang pinadala sa akin text ay ganito nakalagay. Yung maalaala mo kaya na programa, gagawin raw isang episode buhay ni Mrs. Napoles. So natural, dumating yung mga scriptwriter, in-interview si Mrs. Napoles at itinanong na iba't ibang detalye. Sa bawat tanong po ng mga scriptwriter, ang sinasabi raw ni Mrs. Napoles, hindi ko maalala yan. May tinanong na ibang bagay, wala akong maalalang ganyan. Pagkatapos ng 5 o 6 na oras sa kaka-interview, wala pa ho nasusulat yung scriptwriter, hindi na po matutuloy raw yung episode ng maalala mo kaya. So, ganda naman napatawa ko kayo maski pa paano. Naalala ko tuloy nung kami na-exile, nasa Boston. Tatay ko napakahilig manood ng news. Yung lahat ng stasyon, kung kakayanin niya, dinadaanan niya yung news program. Sa Boston po nung panahon na yun, meron pa isang stasyon na binobroadcast yung news in Spanish. So yung inulit na news in Spanish, pinapanood rin niya. At yung una kong karanasan sa winter po kasi, ay nangyari ng mga panahon to. At to ako po'y talagang giniginaw ng husto at shivering. Yung bahay ho namin kasing tinitiran sa Boston, ginawa 1929. Ngayon po yung insulation science, tila iniisip pa lang noong 1929. No? So meron po yung tawag yata ring radiator. No? Pag tinitignan ko kako, display purposes lang pala to. Baka hindi man yung tinatanong. Nung ako po'y natutulog doon, sabi, di ba, suggestion, multiple layers of clothing. So, syempre, underwear, tapos thermal underwear, tapos may jogging pants, may sweater, kuminsan may down jacket, sa loob ng sleeping bag na nasa ilalim ng blanket at comforter. At yung pag nakapasok na ho kayo sa inyong kama at medyo mainit-init na, at tinutusan kayo, parang hirap na hirap kayong uulitin yung buong proseso. Anyway po, ang nagbibigay comfort sa akin nung panahon na yun, tila yung wind patterns tsaka yung temperature nagmumula sa Canada at pinainit naman talaga na po ninyo bago umabot sa Boston. Kaya maraming salamat po sa inyo, nabawasan yung ating pinagdaanan doon. Hindi ko po kasi sukat akalain na dito po sa Malacañan, matutuwa akong i-welcome ang escapists. Kaya ako napalitan yung talumpati. Alam mo nyo, pag escapist, kadalasan katabi ko si Secretary Laila de Lima ng Department of Justice. At pinupuri natin yung nakahuli. Pero anyway po, let me get to some more serious matters. Typhoon Haiyan, or Yolanda, was really bad. And it came on top of several crises. You had the Zamboanga siege, you had the Bohol Cebu earthquake, you had Santi in between them before Yolanda struck. And then now you have Agaton. And Agaton is the latest low-pressure area that transformed itself into a tropical depression that fortunately dissipated again into a low-pressure area and hopefully will not reconfigure itself into a tropical depression. The Philippines is visited by about 20 typhoons every year. And we have gone a long way. No? For instance, when we started, we had a weather bureau that, that had at its head somebody who felt he was the best friend of God. And when he decided where a typhoon track would follow, he expected this typhoon track to follow his dictates. So we were advised to prepare for the landfall in Aurora at that point in time, northern Philippines, and it actually went to southern Tagalog and then Metro Manila. And I was in our residence in Quezon City at the time, and I was saying, this must be such a terrible typhoon because the winds were whipping it up and so strong in Quezon City when it was supposed to be in Aurora Province. Lo and behold, it never went to Aurora Province because there it was very sunny, and it actually was, in a sense, in the opposite track. Now we have a weather bureau who can accurately tell you precisely where it will fall, what the wind strength will be, what the rainfall will be, but more importantly, we have a Department of Science and Technology that is able to translate all of this data and make our citizens even more prepared than what they were. When we started out, when you say amount of rainfall expected, they'll give you a reading in millimeters, and nobody really could understand it. Now we have a color-coded scheme that tells you how much rain to expect, and this is coupled with geohazard mapping throughout the country that tells you what to expect given certain conditions. And we expect to have more and more inputs and more work done that will make all of our communities resilient. Okay. Let me talk about Yolanda. Yolanda affected 44 of our 81 provinces. It affected about 20% of the population. No? And by affected, we mean that they really were severely affected. We have something like 918,000 families needing assistance of some form or another just to recover shelter. And of course, the livelihood that's involved. Now, if I may ask you to recall, this was the last in a series of tragedies that befell us, both man-made and natural, last year. And government was, I admit, hard-pressed to meet all of the needs. And I had received so many text messages again. And they were asking me how I was. And I said, I'm okay. And you might wonder, why would I be okay given such a situation? I am okay because there really was overwhelming support, not only from our countrymen, but more importantly, from the international community. And I have to praise Canada. In my conversation with the Prime Minister, he mentioned that we do have a significant Filipino-Canadian community, and the Filipino-Canadian community prevailed upon the Canadian government to render its utmost assistance in the tragedy that happened with Yolanda. So previously, there was warmth from the winter months. Now there is the warmth from the love that you have bestowed and shown on our countrymen. And again, on their behalf, I thank all of you for this really tremendous effort that enabled us to overcome and continue to overcome the challenges besetting our country as we try to recover, reconstruct, rehabilitate, and build back better. Again, our thanks to each and every one of you. To those of you who have not been back to the country in quite a while, I think you will notice that there are significant changes in our country today. I dare say that when I stepped down by 2016, perhaps a lot of you will no longer recognize the skyline that is of the National Capital Region, as well as that of Cebu and so many other areas. You will be pleasantly surprised by the infrastructure that will be wrought on the country. A few days ago, we inaugurated, or we broke the ground for this project that will connect the North Luzon Expressway and the South Luzon Expressway, wherein you will be able to bypass the tortuous road called EDSA. Okay. Now, it is very significant, and in a sense, we're glad. We're starting it. We're hoping that it will be completed by 2016, and this will be just one of two connecting roads that will again bypass EDSA. What is important to note is when they envisioned this road, I was still in the elementary. Okay. in sometime in the 70s, the then Construction Development Corporation of the Philippines was granted a franchise. It was given the North Luzon Expressway, built by government, and in exchange, they promised to bring this road to Pangasinan in the north and Quezon in the south. Up to today, about 40 years later, it still has to reach Pangasinan and it has to reach Quezon. And I will not go into details as to why it took that long. But the bottom line is that some people are already talking of trips from Manila to Baguio in a 3.5 hour to 4 hour mode, driving, shall we say, not overspeeding. Okay. Now, airports, we have so many projects online for our airports, primarily because we expect tourist arrivals, which started at about 3 million when I started into office, to amount to about 10 million foreign tourist arrivals every year by 2016. And we're at a halfway point. The domestic tourism program has already breached the target for 2016 as early as 2011. So that has necessitated practically doubling the targets by 2016. And I'm confident that we will reach that. We have gotten so many accolades from credit ratings agencies that have given us investment grade status already as a country when we issue our bonds. You have a country that is able, again, to come up with the wherewithal with the challenges that beset us one after the other. And perhaps it is a mark of the confidence of the international community that so many came to us because they knew it would not be wasted given the reforms that we have tried to institute in the office. You know, let me just give you an idea of one of the reforms that has enabled us to get to where we are. The Department of Public Works and Highways used to have the most corrupt image, if not one of them. Okay? Now, one of the processes that they used to involve themselves in would be the need for people interested in bidding for projects to submit a letter of intent to bid. This letter, in turn, would produce a list of people intending to bid for particular projects. What that facilitated was collusion amongst the contractors to know who their competitors were, reach out to them, come up to a deal, and defeat the purpose of competitive bidding. Secretary Singson, when he came into office, innovated by removing that requirement. And what is the result? There is an underpass now connecting Quezon Avenue, at the intersection of Quezon Avenue and Araneta Avenue. When we got into office, there was a budgeted amount of about 690 million pesos for the said project. When we actually came up with our own estimate, it got reduced to about 503 or so. When we actually bidded it out, it became 430 million pesos instead of 690, and we brought it in, if I remember correctly, about 100 days ahead of schedule. So we got something that we needed, better, at the right quality, at the right price, and at an earlier point in time. Now, I had a battle cry during the campaign of kung walang korap, walang mahirap. And what does that mean? No. We want growth that is inclusive. And how are we tackling this growth? I'll give you an example. We do invest the vast majority of our budget in education. And one of the components is TESDA, or the tech box sector. Previously, it used to hit about 26% placement rate for its graduates. Currently, the average is 62%. And this has been done by tailoring their programs to the needs of our various industries and businesses. In certain sectors within this tech box sector, it can reach up to 85% placement rates. Now, what is the end result? Over 500,000 Filipinos in our 3 years, about 560,000 actually, or thereabouts, have been brought through the process. And again, at least 62% of these 500,000+ Filipinos have found meaningful work. Another program that we are proud of is in Tagalog, it's called Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino Program. It's called the Conditional Cash Transfer Program in English. And the only requirement is, keep your children in school, you will receive a stipend from government. This is about 4.3 million families already by now, targeting the bottom quintile of our population. This year, we will expand the program to cover students in the high school arena. There is a recent study that says graduating from high school brings a premium of 40% in your income earning capabilities over that of elementary school graduates. The school backlog program of 66,800 classrooms that we needed when we started has been completed by the end of 2013, and Brother Armin Luistro of DepEd managed to produce not 66,800, but he was so proud to report to me that they produced 66,813. Hopefully in this case, the 13 extra happening in 2013 will be, shall we say, the hallmark of what to expect. You will get more and more from this government and its good governance. So my friends, I don't want to talk too long, no. But I guess what I really just want to say is, like a lot of Filipinos, and I guess you, when you left our shores, you looked at the future in the country and said, the future doesn't look that bright. And I've always wondered, and perhaps most especially when we were living in exile, the country is so blessed. We are blessed with natural resources, we're blessed with location, we're blessed with the people so resilient and so talented and so creative. And one had to ask and wonder, why can't we make that good future here? Why does a Filipino wanting a good future have to go abroad, be separated from family, and really pick up the roots with all the hardships that entails? And I'm here to tell you that this is changing. In our 3.5 years of governance, you will see a transformation in the attitude of our people, a can-do attitude that perhaps manifested itself most clearly during the recent Yolanda episode. When I was asked, how are you? And I kept replying, I'm okay. And perhaps I should have expounded, I'm okay because the people I serve really bring me so much honor and so much pleasure in that given any tragedy, they really can pick themselves up, sometimes literally the day after, and proceed to reconstruct and rehabilitate their own lives instead of dwelling on their misfortune. People who will have so many challenges but will never be bowed, but instead always exhibit the fight so typical of our race and our countrymen. So my friends, I'd like to welcome you again, retracing your roots, showing perhaps that your efforts towards alleviating the plight of our countrymen has not been in vain. And perhaps with a little amount of pride, hopefully your stay here will truly be more fun because you have seen a Philippines transform. Thank you. Good day.